What is up, guys? J'espère que vous allez bien, que vous êtes en pleine forme. Bienvenue sur le podcast Conversation Awesome avec KarmaKin. A place where we speak Franglish, say the word awesome a lot, mais surtout un endroit d'inspiration et d'éducation pour vous aider à optimiser votre santé globale from the inside out. Mon nom est Claudia, fondatrice de KarmaKin, et ma mission avec ce podcast est de t'amener dans un monde de développement personnel, d'optimisation d'habitudes de vie et de découverte so you can unleash your potential and live the life you truly want and deserve. Merci d'être à l'écoute. You're awesome. Hello, what is up, guys? J'espère que vous allez bien, que vous êtes en pleine forme. Super contente aujourd'hui de vous présenter un invité tellement awesome, tellement humble et tellement successful. Aujourd'hui, je m'assois avec mon good friend John Goodman. John, c'est quelqu'un qui est extrêmement connu dans le monde de l'entraînement et surtout dans le monde du online training. C'est grâce à lui que je suis devenue certifiée online trainer grâce à son académie. Il y a déjà de ça plusieurs années. J'ai été à un de ses événements aussi de quelques jours de conférence à Toronto en 2017, je crois. Puis, mon Dieu, John Goodman, depuis 2011, il a publié 11 livres. Il a construit un site Internet absolument phénoménal pour les Health and Fitness Professionals qui accueille 20 millions de visiteurs sur son site. Il a vendu plus de 250 000 objets, livres, revues, produits, services en lien avec, comme je disais, le Health and Fitness. Et on partage notre passion de la vie nomade. Donc, John, il vient de Toronto. Par contre, il a plus de 1300 jours d'exploration autour du monde avec sa femme et leur petit garçon, Calvin. Et à travers tout ce succès-là, j'ai toujours admiré John parce qu'il fait souvent les choses un peu différemment des autres. Vous allez l'entendre, c'est quelqu'un de très, très humble, like your everyday normal awesome guy qui se prend pas pour un autre, puis qui, avec tout son succès, il réussit à nous faire transmettre des leçons que je trouve super intéressantes. Donc, on va dans tous les sens dans la conversation d'aujourd'hui et je voulais vraiment profiter de cette opportunité-là, de vous partager quelqu'un que j'admire et qui m'a inspiré énormément à partir et à construire et à continuer à faire optimiser ma business virtuelle en tant que-online trainer. Donc, voilà, sur ça, je vous laisse. L'entrevue se fait en anglais et n'hésitez pas évidemment à nous donner du feedback par la suite. Bonne écoute! All right, so we have my good friend John Goodman in the house today. Hey, John, how you doing?
Bonjour, bonjour.
And that's the extent of French we're going to be doing today.
Je me souviens.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's written on your license plate.
That's the only reason that I know it.
I figured.
This is what happens when you grow up in Ontario and you do 6 years of French in elementary school. You know nothing.
Yeah.
It's basic.
That happens with a lot of languages that we don't practice after we learn the language. So
yes. And I've been in so many Spanish speaking places that it's interesting now because I think it's Spanish more than I think it's French.
Yeah.
So anytime that I am anywhere where there's French speaking, I just think it's Spanish now. And I say Spanish words. So
I did that when I went to Southeast Asia. I started to speak Spanish because I was like, oh, I'm in a different country.
Yes.
So I have to speak a different language. And I was used to speaking Spanish because all the travels I've done in Central America and South America. So yeah.
Right.
Anyway, welcome to this awesome conversation. I'm so excited to have you here with us today.
Yeah, merci.
Ça me fait plaisir. As we were mentioning before we press record, your main area of expertise is obviously helping online fitness professionals like myself grow an awesome online business. And this is how I found you, learned from you, and met you through all of your awesome work. And it's been, like 5 years now, I think, the first time I came across
Something
your work.
Like that.
Yeah, so it's been a while. And obviously my listeners are not online trainers. So today I want to chat more about your personal life, your lifestyle, your habits, your views on different things. And with all the quote unquote success that you've built in the last 10 years plus, all the books you've written, the multi-million-dollar company that you've built as well, all the people you've been helping, you're a very humble, everyday, normal guy. And I say that as a compliment, obviously. So I want to start with asking you, what's your definition of success?
Oh, that is a question I should have a much better answer for and shouldn't be caught off guard for. I don't really have one. What I'll do is I'll tell you a story.
Sure.
And this happened to me a number of years ago. I was at a professional event, like a high-end professional event, and it wasn't a fitness thing. I'm just in a bunch of business mentorships and stuff like that. And there's somebody there. His name is Don Dapani. You can look him up. He's a brilliant guy. His stuff is fantastic, and he's an ex-Hindu monk, and he's become a good friend of mine. And he lived on a Hindu monastery for 10 years and then basically left and now does a lot of entrepreneur coaching. He's one of the entrepreneur organization's top speakers, like that type of stuff, basically mindfulness and whatever. And he's become a good friend over the years, largely because we lived in Costa Rica for a long time and he's got a big ashram in Costa Rica now. So we helped him with a lot of the surveying and stuff. Anyway, we were in a hotel and I asked him a question and I said, Don Dapani, man, like, I never anticipated that I would build my own business. It was never anything that I thought that I would want to do, but I'm sitting here now and like I've made more money than I ever, like I never like went out to try to get, I grew up in a family, like we were, medium to like middle to upper class, right? Like it wasn't, money wasn't an issue when I was young. So I never really desired money when I was older, just because it was never a struggle. And I'm aware of that. And so I asked him, like, I never really desired money when I was young. I never did this to get into money. So how do I know how much is too much?
Right.
And I'll never forget his answer. And I think it's the answer that you're looking for here. If not, then that's too bad because it's the answer I'm going to give you. He said, a lot of people, when they ask a question like this, are looking for some sort of a financial answer, some sort of an equation, some sort of if you have a paid off house and $5 million in the bank, you can reliably assume that you're going to make a 10% interest, which is going to be $50,000 a year, which is going to cover your base expenses without taking anything off of the principal. And so $5 million in the bank is enough. He's like, it's none of that. Right? The answer to me is, as long as you were working and energized by your work, as long as you feel like the work that you're doing is continually putting good work out into the world, you're doing things that are in line with your values. You don't feel like you're being forced to do things that are outside of your values, right? Make as much goddamn money as you can.
Yeah. But
the second that you start to go beyond that line, it's too much. And this has rung true to me a lot. We've had interest over the years from private equity and venture capital firms looking to make investments into us, looking to buy us. And the reality of it is, I love the business that I run. I love how we're running it. I have more than enough for myself and my family. And we get to just build good stuff, right? We get to treat people in a way that I think is the right way to treat people. I mean, in this day and age, you could give 1,000 people $100 bill and one of them is going to call you an asshole because you're not respecting their rights. Like there's just nothing you can do about that. But the reality of it is, I like that. And I've seen a lot of my friends sell their companies or take on investment, right? Do what you are supposed to do. Silicon Valley comes and gives you a bunch of money, or some private equity firm comes and, buys a majority stake in your company or whatever it is. And I've seen those businesses slowly, reliably, consistently turn into bigger and bigger piles of steaming shit. And they still make money, right? Yeah. But I question what they're doing and why they're doing it, because now their responsibility is to their investors, right? Now they're like when you are owned by an investment company, you have a fiduciary responsibility to appease your investors first.
Yeah, for sure.
Today, right? And that idea of success is like, I don't know, like what what is it that I want to be doing every day? Why do I want to be doing it? And making sure that I maintain that type of control and not fall into the traps, the societal traps of doing what I feel like I should be doing because it's what business books tell you to do.
Amen.
I think has been a big thing. And I, cause I did, like, I've gone that way. Like I went corporate for a few years. Right. And we hired VPs from other big companies to appease my own ego, to be able to tell my buddies that, hey, look at who I now have working for me.
Right.
Like the first question that anybody asks at these events is how many people work for you? Who gives a shit? Right? Why does that matter? What impact are you making? How much profit are you making?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if you make $10 million a year, if you spend 9.9, right? I'd rather make 1.5 and spend 700,000.
Yeah.
It's way less.
The math is, for sure.
And so, that my definition of success has evolved over time because I've kind of been kicked in the teeth because I did what I thought that I should do and build a bigger company, and I paid the price for it.
Literally, probably.
Oh my God. Oh yeah. Talk to me about severances. Holy shit. Yeah. And so that's the definition of success. And I'm living it now. I mean, I let go my entire senior staff a month and a half ago. Right. We've cut $2 million in expenses in the last 6 months.
Wow.
And I'll tell you right now, our company's growing faster than it's ever grown. I'm working hard. Right. Yeah. I'm not doing the dream of you build a business to work for you. You don't work in the business. You get people to do your work for you so you can sit back and enjoy the riches of all of your hard work. I'm working. I'm enjoying it. Right?
I was just going to say, is that something that you would even want? Because when I hear this and I see this, I'm like, that doesn't speak to me. Like, I just don't want to not work in my business anymore because I love the coaching so much. So is that something you would even want to have the business running for you? And exactly, right? No. So
my biggest fear, though, is right now I have a fair amount of resources at my disposal. Right. My, even our team, our staff, like we've got a full-time creative director, right? Like I just, I have a bunch of resources that way, financial resources, and also like network resources. Like I can call a lot of people in the industry and just do cool stuff. Like we're going to put on a virtual summit in March.
Nice.
And working with a fantastic company to put on the summit and facilitate the whole thing. And it's $10,000 to work with them. I said, okay, let me think about this. I'll get back to you tomorrow. I called up a friend of mine and I said, hey, I'm thinking of doing a virtual summit in March. Do you want to sponsor it? It's $15,000 for a sponsorship spot. They said, yes. I called back the company. Hey, yeah, we're in. Right. Like, I can do stuff like that, which is really cool. At the same time, my biggest fear is that I won't be able to create things, so on one hand, I'm like, it's not about money at all. It's not about profits at all. But at the same time, like money and profits is what makes the world go round. Like if you want to build stuff, you need money to build stuff. And so I have to kind of walk that line a little bit, I guess. But I just want to build cool shit. Yeah. I want to play. Like you've seen me over the years. How many things have I done? How much stuff have I built? Some of it's worked really well. Yeah. Right. Some of it's worked okay. And some of it's been, complete flops, but like, who cares?
Learning lessons. Yeah.
I'm up another day. Yeah. So like we're building software right now for the fitness industry and we're just giving it away for free to everybody. Yeah. Like I'm looking at that. I'm like, well, I could spend $500,000 and market an ebook, right? And send Facebook ads to an ebook, or I could spend $500,000 and build a great piece of software and let our people use it for free. Yeah. Like, I don't know. The second seems like a lot more fun.
Yeah.
And
I want to go back to something you mentioned that I integrate in my own definition of success as being aligned with your values. I think that's something you learn in elementary school. Like, what are your values? Oh, friendship, family, respect. And then we kind of lose touch unless you're doing the work and actually thinking about what your values are. And whenever you're about to make a decision or an investment or, changing and living in a different country, you just go back to your values, whether you're aware of it or not. So what are your main values at this point in time in your life?
From living and traveling, from living and traveling in a lot of different countries, right? Yeah. You're forced to consistently re-examine what matters to you and what doesn't. And, for any, I don't imagine people listening know who I am. I've spent 4 to 6 months abroad, starting by myself, then with my girlfriend, then with my wife, then with my 4-year-old son, and now we've got another baby being incubated. So now there's like 3.5 of us, and 3.5 in a few weeks, and so doing that. I mean, for 6 years, my wife and I traveled basically 6 months of the year, and then we'd come home to Toronto and we'd rent a condo and we'd rent a car. And then we'd leave for the winter again and we'd give back the keys, and we only owned a backpack, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
We were forced to so deeply re-examine multiple times throughout the year every single thing that mattered to us. Mm-hmm. Right? What did we care to own? Where did we care to be? What type of home, what type of environment did we want to live in? Yeah. Right? Did we want to live in a big house in, a beautiful location with a beautiful sunset view like we lived in Thailand? Did we want to live in a little pueblo where we live right now in Mexico? What is it? Is it community? Is it space? Is it luxury? Is it like not that all of those things matter to some extent, but you can only really prioritize one of them. Right. Yeah. And so my values, I mean, they're constantly evolving, but I, where I live, I find makes a big, big impact on where we are. So even where we decided to buy a house in Toronto, it was dictated by community and by family. And so, I mean, I could live anywhere in the world, and I have, right. I could live in Hawaii. I could live anywhere. And we bought a house less than a 10-minute walk from my sister and my parents. In a real community, right? Yeah. It's not a small house, but it's not a big house. It's in a real community. We love our neighbors. Our neighbors are actually, I'm living in Mexico right now for the winter, and our neighbors are coming here in 4 days to spend time with us here.
Oh, cool.
Like we love our neighbors. Yeah. Even where we live in the winter in Mexico, like we live in a little pueblo up the coast from Puerto Vallarta, it's like it's a community. Yeah. It's so that to me makes a very big difference. I think understanding happiness, understanding the science of happiness, understanding your own definition of happiness. Like there's he's a business managerial thinker, Jim Collins, but one of the things that he said is kind of like a life examination practice. It's less about business. And I remember it because I started doing it for a while. It's called a bug book.
A bug book.
A bug book, BUG. And the entire concept is, what would happen if you study yourself as if you were to study a book or a bug? And so you have scores from -2 to +2. So you can give yourself a score, -2, -1, 0, +1, +2. And it's how you feel. And multiple times throughout a day, what you do is you write down in a bug book, you give yourself a score, how you're feeling, and then you write down what you are doing in that moment.
Right.
And where you are and who you're around. You will start to identify patterns really quickly, right? And it will become very clear to you very quickly, what it is and what it isn't. And so for me, one of the things that I found is I don't really care that much about a lot of like luxurious goods. It's called Veblen goods, basically stuff that's expensive just for the sake of being expensive because it raises our perceived status amongst other people. Yeah. It's this idea of like, it doesn't matter, what car you drive as long as you drive a nicer car than your neighbor. Right? And so there's a lot of Veblen goods, Mercedes, C-Class, like Rolex watches, like stuff that just really isn't like nothing about it. Most everything that we own in life these days is democratized. Yeah. Like there are very few things that even the wealthiest can afford that are in any way a major improvement amongst what even middle to lower class people can afford. Right? Everybody has a watch that tells the same time. Everybody has a car that can go the speed limit. Most everybody has heating and air conditioning and washing machine and dryer and, dishwasher and all of these things. Andy Warhol once said, what I love about Coke is that the president of the United States can't get a better Coke than I can. Like the best things in the world, we basically can all get. But, there are some tiny ones like maybe private air travel, but I would question whether I would even fly private if I could, just for environmental reasons. But all of this to say, for me, that a lot of those types of things just don't actually increase the quality of my life.
Right.
And so, yeah, I love, like, I've got a $14 Casio watch. It's my favorite thing that I own.
Yeah, I was going to say, you want to talk about your Casio?
Got a $14 Casio. It's the best watch in the world. What does a watch need to do? A watch needs to tell time. A watch needs to have a timer. And a watch needs to have an alarm. A watch should be water resistant, or you don't even think about it. Like I go, in the ocean, I go in the shower, like doesn't really matter. And it needs to not break, and you don't need to think about it. My wife, on the other hand, somebody gave me, Sharad, from Trainer Eyes, trolls me all the time. So he sent me an Apple watch. And Allison's, my wife, started wearing it. And she stopped wearing it after 2 weeks because the thing was such a pain in the ass to charge every night. Like, it's just, why do we have these things that are supposed to make our life better, but actually make us more concerned? Like, I do own a nicer car. We own a Tesla for no other reason than I like to optimize things that I do all of the time. Basically, the only thing I spend a lot of money in my house on is my bed and my bedroom. Because I sleep so much and it's so important. Same thing with driving. Like, I kind of hate driving. So we have a Tesla because it makes me not hate driving as much.
Right.
But one of the things that I said to Allison is, if we buy this car, we can't give a shit about it. That's the rule. I don't give a shit if it gets scratched. If it gets dented, I don't care. Like, we can't give a shit about it, right? Just because it's nice, we have to treat it like it's, the island car that we rented in Hawaii. Because it's the little micro interactions. It's the little things that I do every day that I try to optimize. So living in this Pueblo, like, I can't go outside without having at least one, usually many, what I call positive micro interactions. You recognize somebody, even if you don't know them, but you smile and you wave and you say, hola, buenos dias or whatever, right? Like, that brings so much more joy to me every single day in small amounts than living in a big house in the middle of nowhere by myself ever would. And so I optimize that stuff, right?
Yeah. I agree. I live a very minimalistic lifestyle as well, and couldn't care less if, like, my laundry machine is not brand new with all these buttons and, like, technology updates. Like, it washes my clothes. Perfect. It does the job. I get
so pissed. Like, even Zoom, you were logged in here and I had to, like, accept you to join. And because Zoom didn't update, that I had to update the thing. The system isn't broken. It's just freaking engineers having to justify their jobs. And so changing shit that still works perfectly fine. And so now for some reason, probably cost hundreds of thousands of dollars of research and development, somebody decided that it's a better user experience to have a button appear at the top of the page to accept somebody into your meeting versus the participants, a little window at the bottom of how it used to be. There is literally no reason why that needed to be changed other than somebody at Zoom needed to justify the fact that they are employed. Right. It's just a waste of everybody's time. So why are we doing it? What matters and what doesn't, and going back to your values, like community and family and And we definitely share, as we can hear, our passion for travels. What's that's going to be a tough question. It would be for me anyway, but what's a couple like biggest lessons that traveling have brought you, have taught you in the last few years? You mentioned community, obviously. Travel has taught me. Travel has taught me what matters to me and what doesn't. Stuff that I own, right? And also kind of how I want to spend my days. I have three basically competing priorities in my life, right? Health, wealth, and family. And so really it is, fitness, business, and family time. When you break it down for me, right? That's my definition of those things. I am fascinated by wealth management and investing, but I'm more interested in investing because of the carryovers to fitness and how interesting those are. Like, play the long-term game, compounding, don't fall for get rich quick schemes, just like you wouldn't fall for get ripped quick schemes, right? Like it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And the type of person who falls for one is the type of person who falls for another. Like the type of person who's buying every detox is the same type of person who's trying to get rich swing trading NFTs and cryptocurrencies.
Absolutely.
Like it's the same. Like the Venn diagram is a circle, you know? What has it taught me? It's taught me what I think matters to me. I have figured out that I can't, maybe I'll figure it out one day, but I don't think that I can optimize all three of those things at the same time. But I can do two of them. Right. And so family to me is always a number one priority. Like that's just all throughout the year. But then what I do is I effectively, it's not exactly a 6 month split every year, but I effectively split my month into, where the priority is either fitness or business. It doesn't mean I'm not doing the other one. It means the other one basically gets put on maintenance mode while I'm really trying to push forward on one. So, right now, I'm really trying to push forward on my fitness, right? So I'm making sure every morning, 7 a.m., I'm at the gym. I'm actually tracking my food, which is nuts. I'm not weighing it or any of that shit, but I'm writing down what I eat, which for me is nuts. Like I don't know. I think it's crazy. I won't do it for much longer. But I can't, the point of all of this is to say that I can't put emphasis and stress about improving aggressively on both of them at the same time. But I can do one at a time. And what I always found used to happen was that even if one of them was going really well, I felt guilty about the other one not being pushed forward to the same extent.
Yeah.
And so what traveling has done is it's helped me split up the year. And it's given me that on this date when I leave to live abroad for whatever, 4 months, 5 months, right? I know that I'm switching my priority, right? And it doesn't have to be traveling. I just find that, the traveling helps with that. And then it makes me not feel bad or guilty about not doing the other thing to the same extent, which mentally makes a world of difference to me. Because that guilt, like your business is rocking, but all of a sudden you're not taking care of yourself physically the same way. And then that starts to beat you down, and then a downward spiral starts. Yeah. We've all experienced that. So for me, it's like, all right, well, I know that right now I'm going to be on maintenance mode. What does maintenance mode with my fitness look like? I'm not going to feel like I need to do more. I'm not going to research it more. I'm not, right now, it's just important that I keep healthy and active and fit and out of pain. Right? Yeah. That's the number one thing, I think.
Yeah, I love that, because a lot of us will feel guilty because we're trying to balance, that word, balancing all the areas of our life, all the roles that we play. And then when you're pushing, for example, business forward and something else is not as optimal, this is when usually, like you said, the guilt comes in. But that just puts you in a negative downward spiral, and then you feel guilty from jumping from one to the other. Whereas when you have a bigger vision and you plan and you make the decision to prioritize one of the aspects, there's no guilt because you gave yourself permission to make that decision. But it takes a lot of awareness and being in line with your values, with how you want to live, with your goals too, right? Like if you didn't have a goal of pushing your business forward or getting jacked as fuck for the summer, your goals have to be in line as well with your values. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You mentioned family and like baby number 2 on the way, and then Calvin as well. I can't believe he's 4 already.
It's four and a half. He will make sure that you know.
Okay, I'm sure he will.
There. He will. Yes, it's very important that happens. But it's true though. Like, I mean, I'm 36, like 36 and a half and 36. It's like, screw off. Like basically once you get to the point where you're 16 years old, like your birthdays, like you go on 10s and 5s for a few years. It's like 16. It's like, all right, I'll give you 20. I'll give you 25. I'll give you 30. Then you go on 10s until you're 70
I'm in my
old.
40s. I'm in my 50s.
Yeah. Then at that point, like, and then once you hit 70, you get to celebrate your birthdays again. Like if somebody comes to me and invites me to their 37th birthday party, I'm like, I'm straight up not leaving my house for that. Like call me when you're 40, Oh,
that's amazing. So,
but when you're 4 and a half makes a big difference. Like he's a different human from when he was 4. I'm 36, so I got 4 years before you need to care about my birthday.
Yeah, there you go. How does he feel about becoming a big brother?
It's hard to tell. I mean, it's so abstract for him. He definitely likes to be around babies for sure. He gets this from my wife. He's very intuitive. You know, he's emotional. He's very intuitive. And so he feels a lot. He connects with how people feel a lot. And if somebody's feeling sad, he'll kind of go over and like try to console them or give them a toy or something like that. A complete opposite for me. If somebody's feeling sad, I'm like, that's their shit. Like I'm going and playing by myself, right? And so I think he will be, you know, I think he'll be a really, really great older brother. But I do anticipate it being difficult.
Yeah, another adjustment for sure.
It's going to be a big adjustment. He's been an only child for 4.5 years, and we've traveled so much with him that he's had a lot of really deep time with both of us. Yeah. Which is really special. I mean, we have nannies a lot of the time. Like when we travel to Europe, we brought one with us and stuff, but he's had a lot of very deep time with us. And for mom especially, you know, it's mom's not going to be his anymore. Right. And so we anticipate that's going to be hard, but I'm also looking forward to it because maybe he'll turn into a daddy's boy and not a mummy's boy, which would make me pretty happy. Yeah. Because he's getting old enough to like run around with. And I feel like I got a good like 10 years where I could still beat him at sports. So I'm looking forward to that.
You got to keep training. Keep
I mean, I'm not good at sports. That's the thing. Like I've never been athletic. It was funny. We did a 23andMe test, you know, the genetic test. And we actually, we did that. Allison and I did that because we were having a lot of trouble getting pregnant. We had 4 miscarriages. And so we did that to make sure that nothing was going on. We did all the diagnostic testing as well, but we did that to make sure nothing was going on. But what we found, one of the things it tells you is like basically your muscle fiber makeup. Yeah. And it's funny. So Allison was a super high level athlete. She was national team gymnast. A lot of her partners went on to the Olympics. If she didn't quit, she might have had a chance. And then she won the national championship for cheerleading 3 years in a row in university. So like super high level, credible athlete. And she can't catch a ball worth a damn because her entire life was gymnastics, right? There wasn't a single projectile in sight. So she can't catch a ball worth a damn. But her body awareness and strength and power is incredible. Me, on the other hand, I was the kid who just basically barely made every single team because I tried so much harder than everybody else, and they just felt bad, so they added me to the team. And so our muscle fiber makeups were hilarious. Hers is, you have the muscle fiber type of a top tier athlete, you, like basically like you are the most athletic, like muscle fiber type we could ever do. Like you should like you go to the Olympics, which is not a surprise, right? Right. And then mine comes up and it's like, you should do middle distance running and you're probably going to strain a lot of muscles. Middle distance running. It's like you should run kind of not that far, pretty slow. And give yourself a lot of rest or you're going to hurt yourself. I mean, it actually kind of said that. That's hilarious. And so, but I have really, really good hand-eye coordination. And I can assess situations and build strategy really, really well. And so we figure that if Calvin gets her athleticism, right, and my, you know, hand-eye coordination and stuff, he could do some damage, you know, he could be a good athlete. And so we just kind of laugh about that. Yeah, that's funny. I'm excited to see him progress because I see him pop in your stories like when you're training and working out and sometimes being your assistant coach. Yeah, I mean, he's been in the gym with us all the time. Right. That's one of the benefits too of living abroad is that there aren't the kind of idiotic restrictions because everybody's scared of getting sued that there is in the United States and Canada. So like, you know, we're living in Costa Rica, you can come into the gym, like no problem, play on the mats, hit the boxing bags, like doesn't really matter. Yeah. And Dominican Republic, same thing, obviously Southeast Asian stuff, same thing. And so he's been in the gym with us basically his whole life. And this kid can climb. Yeah. Oh my God, this kid can climb. And so he certainly, and he doesn't have any fear, which scares the crap out of me. but he doesn't have any fear, and he's fallen. He's taken his licks.
Yeah. Just
It's
like
fine.
all the other kids. So becoming a dad, like what has that taught you in the last 4 years and a half, or changed, or lessons, or something that maybe surprised you?
Most everything that I thought that mattered before I became a dad is completely irrelevant and doesn't matter at all. That's number one. Number two is I understood nothing about life before I became a father. And I laugh at all of the things I used to think that I understood. Like I used to think that I was good at prioritization and focus and time management. I was shit.
Yeah.
It's funny how much I like held, when I was a personal trainer, it's funny how much I like held my clients in contempt of like this 22-year-old single idiot, right? It's like all 22-year-olds are stupid. And so I'm like, I was a stupid 22-year-old. And I would like be, thinking bad, like holding my client in contempt because he's showing up 7 minutes late for his 4:30 p.m. session on Tuesday. It's like, this dude is the chief of psychiatry at one of the biggest hospitals in Toronto and has 3 kids. And he's able to make it at 4:37 p.m. on Tuesday.
That's pretty damn good.
I got to learn some stuff from this guy, And then the third thing is just, it's a mantra that I put into place very, very quickly when Calvin was born, which is, who can I pay to make this go away? It's just like every single decision that I make, I now make through the filter of, if I do this, it means that I will have less time, attention, energy to be with Calvin, to be with Allison, to be with whatever we call the little fetus in her stomach, And
buying back your time.
Buying back your time. And, it's easy for me to say because I can afford to do it. I totally understand that. I mean, just it's a fortunate position to be in. Even just little things, everybody's trying to get rich these days and kind of given up, I feel, living today, trying to get rich tomorrow. It's like, it's probably more important to be with your kids when you're young and like, as long as you're not going hungry.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but that's like, I'm in a situation where I can say these things, because it's just a fortunate situation. I understand that.
For sure. And so you guys recently went through a lot of hardships trying to get pregnant, and Allison as well had some issues with her health. So how is she doing?
Yeah, she's good. Thank you. She's
good.
She's really good.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was a messed up year for sure. 2 years, trying to get pregnant. And like I said, we had 4 miscarriages, and we were finally about to start IVF treatment. And we had done all the diagnostic stuff. We'd done all the medical appointments, and it was going to start on her next cycle. So whenever her cycle hit, called the doctor, start all the stuff. And she got pregnant beforehand. And so we pushed back the IVF, called the doctor, said pregnant naturally. 3 weeks later, she miscarried again. And so we were going to start IVF at the next cycle, same thing. And then 3 days, she's always super regular on her cycles. This is absurdly personal, but she's always super regular on her cycles. So like almost to the day, knows when it's going to be. And which is crazy for a gymnast, for somebody who used to be a gymnast, but anyway. And so 3 days before she was due to start IVF, her cycle was going to start most likely. She basically said, she's like, oh, what, does this feel like a lump? Right. And I was like, nah, it doesn't feel like anything. And she said, I'm just going to go get it checked out. Did you get it checked out? Oh, they're going to do the doctor said it was a lump. So, we're going to get a scan. They get a scan. Yeah. It's like, oh, they're going to do a biopsy. They did a biopsy, and I just get home one day, and Calvin was downstairs, which, Allison was upstairs. And usually when that happens, like they had a fight and just need to separate from one another. But I go upstairs, and Allison is just like bawling on the floor. And she's like, I have cancer. And just out of nowhere. Right. And so she got diagnosed with papillary thyroid cancer. No risk factors, no family history, no
healthy,
symptoms.
Yeah.
no nothing, the healthiest, person you can imagine. And here's the most fucked up stuff, if you excuse my language. There is a reasonably good chance that all of her pregnancies caused the cancer. Because in women, breast cancer and thyroid cancer is often brought on by erratic hormonal levels resulting from pregnancy. And the fact that she was pregnant so many times could have caused it. And so that was messed up. And then 3 weeks after that, she got pregnant. And this time she didn't miscarry.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it's been a whirlwind. I mean, I'll finish. I mean, everything's fine. Papillary thyroid cancer, as we now know, right, is if you're going to choose to get cancer, that's about the best one you could get. Survival rates like 99.9999%. It's not growing.
Good.
So the treatment basically is, because of course now she has a high risk obs-gyn who specializes in women who have cancer who are pregnant, and just figuring out how to manage care. She needs to have most likely half, potentially all of her thyroid removed, but most likely half. And when do you do that surgery, right? You can't put a woman in her first trimester under general anesthesia. So figuring out how to manage all that care. And anyway, she's getting scans for the baby. She's getting scans for thyroid. And the decision was, as long as the thyroid is not growing in any way, we can wait until after you're done breastfeeding.
Okay.
But just get a scan every month, make sure it isn't. And so it's not growing. We're getting scans here. And the baby and everybody is super healthy. And
good. I'm glad to hear
we're
that.
well into the safe zone, well into second trimester and stuff. But yeah, she's been through a lot.
I can imagine.
I don't talk about this like it's been on me, right? Like she's been through a lot. It's been, there's been a lot of emotions, a lot of stuff that you just like, this is not supposed to happen to us. Yeah. Right? This is what happens to other people.
Yeah. So what's your mindset or your attitude when you're faced with these challenges? How did you cope, or how did she, any tools or tips? Or
I mean, at the same time, all of this was happening, my company was basically getting kicked in the teeth every single day. We had our pandemic moment this year where, we focused on online fitness. And when the world started opening back up, our sales fell off a cliff. And I got all cocky last year because we had a good year, and I started growing overhead and bringing on all these expensive staff. Yeah. And so while all of this was happening, at the same time, business started to do really, really badly, like in scary ways. Right. And so, I mean, I don't even know. It was just a matter of one foot in front of the other. There were days where I felt like I was just getting bludgeoned, from all angles, but that's what helps you grow. I mean, I'm thankful. The company has always been really fiscally responsible. We saw this coming from a mile away. We had tons of money in the bank. Right. And again, I could make decisions myself. Right. So went out and got an executive coach to talk to and to help navigate some of the stuff, and just one foot in front of the other, right? Yeah. And coming out of it now, and it's never been better, which is the crazy thing. Allison and I, anybody who's in a relationship, a loving relationship, will attest, like, you go through hardships. Doesn't necessarily mean hardships like you're in trouble with the other person, but just hardships together. It strengthens you, right? So we've never been stronger, right? Our values have never been stronger. And the business is same type of thing. Right? All the stuff that needed to get broken down in it got broken down in it. And
then you rebuild from there in a better way. And
it's great. We'll see. Talk to me. And the moves that I'm making now are moves that are going to pay off in 3 to 5 years time. Like I'm playing chess. And so talk to me in 5 years, but I'm having fun.
Yeah. That's all that matters. Having fun. We'll see how long this takes, right? Before it pays off, or how long it will last until the next fun decision. And
Who knows?
I listened to one of your interviews. I don't know if it was on the podcast, the Online Academy podcast, but I remember I think somebody asked you, like, what is something that you regret in life? And then your answer was like really interesting for me because you said something like, oh, when everybody gets asked this question, everybody's like, oh, I regret nothing. It was all meant to happen for a reason. And you're like, this is bullshit. This is not helping anybody.
Everything that I did helped me become the way that I am now. And so I'm thankful for all of that's bullshit. Like, do something like give me something more that like helps people. Yeah.
So I will ask you this question. What's one regret that you have or something that you would have done differently? Any area of your life, whether that's business or travel or family or any areas that come to mind.
Well, so here's actually, going back to the story with Allison, it forced a lot of really deep introspection. I mean, particularly with her, but with both of us too. Mm-hmm. And she's always been very in tune with herself as well. Spiritual, all that good stuff. All that stuff I don't understand, but respect. And so she came to a realization. She's like, whenever stuff like this happens, because when she got diagnosed, she had no idea what it was, right? As we started looking into it more, as we started to see doctors, we realized that it wasn't as big of a deal. I mean, you hear the word cancer, it's just scary.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And so, the otolaryngologist, basically the ear, nose, and throat cancer doc said straight up, he's like, this shouldn't even be called cancer. It's just, but anyway, we didn't know that. And so there's a lot of deep introspection when that happens. And so that happened. And Allison just said to me straight up one day, she's like, there's actually nothing that I wish that I did different. And there's nothing that now that I know, a lot of the times when somebody gets a diagnosis like that, it gives them a new lease on life. What am I going to change? I'm going to have a midlife crisis. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to travel. I'm going to see the world. I'm going to tell that person I love them, whatever it is, right? Yeah. What do I regret not doing? Most regrets are not errors of admission. They're errors of omission.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And so, there wasn't anything of that. And I agree. I mean, I've always taken a lot of pride and I've just tried a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. And that gets me into trouble. I get myself into these crazy situations where I'm like, why am I working on 6 different projects right now? But I've started to realize now over time that that's actually just me. Mm-hmm. And perhaps my only real regret, which I mean was a big learning point of me, was, hey, I think that I want to try to build a $50, $100, $500 million company. And if that happens, great. But that's not going to be my goal anymore.
Right.
And the reason for that is it's just not natural to me. You know what is natural to me? I can build $1, $2 million companies like nothing. Mm-hmm. Right. Like it's just, I'm just really, really, really good at executing from the ground up to get to that point.
Yeah.
And I think in this day and age, that's actually a really interesting point to be at. And I'm going all in there. Mm-hmm. Is basically anybody with basically zero resources can build a 50 to 70% profitable business. That is, say, $1 to $2 million a year. In so many different ways, as long as they understand that they're building it for that goal and not trying to build something really, really big. Now, something could always grow into something bigger.
Yeah.
And so what I've learned in the last couple of years where, the business was not doing as well. Like we've never had a year that wasn't profitable, but, our best year was 2017. We've had a 5-year sideways or slightly downwards trend since then.
Right.
It's not a good way to run a business. The economy's been growing in that time, right? And so what I'm doing is I'm basically just saying, all right, well, I can put all of my, marketing time into my own brand, right? Into my own community, into my own platform, the Jonathan Goodman platform.
Yeah.
Right. The Elon Musk platform. Right. And then on the back end of that, I think that I can build a whole lot of $500,000 to $2 million businesses that operate with basically no overhead, that are super simple to run, that deliver a tremendous amount of value. And so in the back end, that are fun to do, right? And that don't have the type of constraints that trying to build a bigger business did, with millions of dollars of overhead, where you have, or if you're taking investment, that have responsibility to investors, right? Or, you know, debtors or whatever. And so, you know, we're building 3 of them, right? We have a software platform, Quick Coach, which I think, you know, could maybe, like, it's not being built this way, but I think, I mean, we already have a wait list of 4,000 plus people in 5 days, right? 6 days. And so I think we could get tens of thousands of users on that. And even a free platform, you have tens of thousands of users on a thing, somebody's going to come and give you a lot of money for it.
Absolutely.
If you want. So it could be worth it. But then, you know, digital learning, right? We're building a new course platform. And the new course platform is not trying to build a multi-million-dollar education company.
Right.
It's like, no, let's give people who work in health and fitness small, digestible courses and certificate programs on everything that they should have been taught by their certification, but wasn't.
Yeah.
Not this big audacious goal, not this big mission statement. Like, no, this is just something that needs to exist in the world. Right. And the same thing with our mentorship. Right. This isn't some big 7-figure mentorship. It's like, no, like people at a certain level in the fitness industry need a little bit more support to kind of get to the next level.
Yeah.
And then we're doing the same kind of thing in our community. What do we wish in our neighborhood in Toronto? What do we wish really existed in our community? Well, Allison and I are probably going to start a gelato shop.
Cool.
I'm going to build a little gym.
Yeah.
Like, all of this will happen in the next 5 to 10 years, right?
Yeah.
You know, just stuff that I want to exist in the world, in my world.
Yeah. I like that. I want to be mindful of your time. So we're going to wrap this thing up. I have a couple final questions for you. What's one question that you wish more people would ask you? Because you get interviewed on so many podcasts, and like, I
get interviewed a lot.
Yeah. So is there,
you know what?
Yeah.
It's not a single question, because people are pretty good with coming up with questions. People seem to have a harder time having real conversations. I feel like, particularly with less experienced interviewers, podcast hosts, they're very stiff a lot of the time. And so they have some sort of an agenda. My people who listen to this are looking for this. I kind of believe that most people who if you don't listen to a podcast because you feel like you're going to get information that you're going to be able to tactfully use. Like, if you're looking for a solution to a problem, you Google that problem, you can find 50 people giving you the solution. To it. Like, that's not why you listen to podcasts, right? You listen to podcasts because you want some sort of deeper understanding, you want nuance, and you also want to be kind of surprised.
Yeah.
In delighted.
Inspired. Yeah.
And inspired. And so I really love it when people just follow their curiosity. There's I'm reading a few books, but one of the ones that I'm flipping through whenever I find something interesting, I land on it, is one of Howard Stern's books. And the book is basically a collection of his favorite interviews transcribed.
Okay. And
his analysis going into it and what happened. Right. And it's super interesting because, I mean, these interviews span the last 20, 30 years. And I mean, it's everybody. Like the narrative through this book is all of the Donald Trump interviews all throughout the years. So it's like Donald Trump's interview. And then it actually says it's like 19 years, 6 months and 7 days and 27 minutes before inauguration.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And so it just shows, like, it's interesting looking at stuff like that. But one of my favorite celebrities is Conan O'Brien for a lot of reasons. I think he's hilarious, but when you go deeper into him, I think everything about what he does and how he's done it is beautiful. I love how he goes about his work, and I take a lot of inspiration from it. And so he did an interview with Conan O'Brien, and he's like, this is the best interview that I've ever done, was the one with Conan. Wow. And the reason for that is, he said, almost as a throwaway comment, Conan mentions, and this is before I read it, and then I read the interview. It says, almost as a throwaway comment, Conan mentioned that he's medicated for his mental health. I've never seen him speak about that before. We do weeks of research before interviews. I had pages and pages of things to talk about. The second he said that, I threw out everything. Right? Because I wanted to know more.
Curiosity.
And he did. And it made for a really beautiful interview where the host is genuinely curious in something about, what's going on with whoever they're talking to.
Yeah.
So it's not a question.
Yeah, I like that.
It's,
love that
it's serendipity. It's serendipity.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for your time and your wisdom and your adventures and your stories. How can we connect with you? Through Instagram, Facebook, if anybody wants to become an online coach or learn more about how.
Yeah, it's not about online coaching. I don't give a shit about online coaching. I never cared about online coaching. I cared about the problem that online coaching solves. Yeah. Which is people who work in health and fitness have the potential to change the world. They're preventative health. The problem is they get shit on by everybody and everybody. They're not being given the education that they need. They're not being given the tools that they need. They're not being given the resources they need. And this is causing this downward spiral, cataclysmic, negative effect. And when I started teaching people about online training was the solution to that problem. It was a way for people who work in health and fitness to take back control of their lives, of their careers, to be able to offer more to their clients. Yeah. It's not the case anymore. Online has something to do with it, but it's not online training. It's learning how to leverage technology to be able to offer a better service to your clients and also have a better life yourself so that you don't leave the industry. So it's not about online training. Never was. And a lot of the mistake that I made in my own business was I made it about online training. It started when you came into our world, it was called 1K Extra. Yeah. Right. It was about the purpose. It was about solving the problem. It morphed into being less about the purpose and more about the process. And when that happened, it just started to die a slow death.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. If you want to connect with me, at It's Coach Goodman on Instagram.
Yes.
There might be some stuff about online training, but
it's more than that for sure.
It's not important.
Yeah. Awesome. I'll put that in the show notes. I'm super grateful for being a part of your community for all these years. Especially when I started and launched my own business, I was like, oh, why did I do all this? I should have started with John's work. So I'll always be very grateful. And I'm sure my clients are grateful that I learned from you and I can serve them in an awesome way and have that impact that I have today. And so thank you for that. Acknowledge you for that and all the work you're doing. And I finish every interview with the same question for all of my guests. I'm curious to hear your answer about this one. What's your favorite quote and why?
I'm just making this up. Don't you realize that you can too? It was a quote from Michael Gerber, who's the author of E-Myth. And E-Myth
I've read that book a couple of times.
And I read the book and I didn't really care about the book, but also it was just later in my journey. I feel like if it was the first book I read, it would have been really valuable.
I know what you mean.
But I was at one of these marketing events where all of the speakers, give these pretty polished presentations, and no self-help guru has figured out anything new. Right. There isn't anything new. They've just figured out some acronym or some way to market something that people have been saying for years. And so, all these speakers and self-help gurus and whatever are, presenting their slideshows with pretty acronyms. And then, by the way, you can go buy their book outside if you want. Yeah. And Michael Gerber comes up at the end of it, and he was the headliner of the event. And he just walks out, and it was great. No PowerPoint, no nothing. He has a straw hat on, and he has a handheld mic. So here's a tip for you, by the way, if you go to an event. If a speaker comes out with a handheld mic, they're worth listening to because they've been around. They've been around a little bit.
Cool.
And so he comes out with a handheld mic and he kind of just looks at everybody and he's like, "Now I just showed up. I have no idea what anybody else spoke about. I don't even know who else was here. But I'm willing to bet here's what today went like." And he just said exactly what I just said. He's like, everybody was presenting you that they figured something out.
Yeah.
They've cleaned out the edges. They've straightened out the curve. They've made it easy. They've created a blueprint and they've built this acronym around the blueprint. And all you need to do is buy their book, or all you need to do is buy their programming. I don't believe in any of that shit. I've been doing this for 50 years and I'm still just making this up as I go. Don't you realize you can do the same thing? And I was just like,
mind blown.
What do you have to sell? I'm in.
Love it. So we will keep that in mind. Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
J'espère que cette conversation awesome t'a inspiré. Et d'ailleurs, I would love to hear back from you. Rejoins KarmaKin sur les réseaux sociaux and tag me in a post pour partager ce que tu retiens de cet épisode. Je serais vraiment grateful aussi si tu pouvais me laisser un rating and review pour le podcast. Ça me permet d'avoir un impact positif sur plus de gens comme toi. Merci beaucoup d'avoir été à l'écoute and until next time, je te souhaite une journée awesome.